Coming up on this Friday edition of Daybreak, Seoul says it will not link the reunion of Korean families separated since the Korean War to other inter-Korean issues after Pyongyang rejects an offer to discuss arranging family gatherings in time for the Lunar New Year holiday. While Tokyo exerts diplomatic efforts to rationalize its prime minister's visit to a war shrine honoring convicted war criminals, China, a victim of Japan's imperialistic past, criticizes the visit on the international stage. Plus, aiming to shed its image as a poor host for foreign investors, Korea unveils a string of measures to make the country one of the world's 10 largest destinations for foreign direct investment. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Friday, January 10th. I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul. We begin with the disappointing news out of North Korea. Pyongyang has turned down Seoul's offer for talks to resume reunions for families separated since the Korean War. Pyongyang did, however, leave the door open for future dialogue under certain preconditions. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
North Korea has rejected South Korea's proposal to discuss a resumption of family reunions for those separated during the Korean War. Thursday's response came 3 days after South Korean President Park Geun-hye expressed hopes of holding the humanitarian event sometime during the Lunar New Year holiday, which falls in the last week of January. In a statement on Thursday, the North said there had been no change in Seoul's warlike posture and said for a successful round of humanitarian exchanges to take place, the right atmosphere must be created. Although not named directly, Pyongyang seems to be referring to the upcoming joint military exercise between Seoul and Washington that takes place annually between February and March. It also said that in order for the two Koreas to discuss the matter of family reunions, they must also address issues raised by the North, most likely the resumption of South Korean tours to the Mount Kumgang resort. The North, however, did not slam the door shut on family reunions altogether. The statement said the two sides could meet for talks when the South is willing to discuss the issues proposed by the North. South Korea's Ministry of Unification expressed regret over North Korea's rejection, saying humanitarian issues should be dealt with separately.
It is regrettable that North Korea is linking annual military drills with humanitarian issues. South Korea maintains its stance that the issue of family reunions will be dealt with separately from the issues raised by the North.
The Unification Ministry called on North Korea to accept Seoul's proposal for talks on resuming family reunions and added that the North should show its sincerity in mending ties with the South through action and not just through words. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea and the United States continued talks Thursday on how much each side should contribute towards the stationing of U.S. troops in Korea, but came short of reaching a deal. Sources say the biggest sticking point at the 10th round of talks in Seoul remained the total amount of Korea's contribution. Seoul wants its payment starting this year to be around $850 million, but Washington is asking for more. The talks will resume on this Friday, with the two sides hoping to finalize the special measures agreement, of which the previously agreed terms expired last week. North Korea is at the bottom of the barrel in terms of nuclear security conditions in the world, and this according to a latest study by a U.S. think tank. Our Connie Kim has the details.
Nuclear-armed North Korea being designated as having the world's worst nuclear security conditions shouldn't come as a surprise, since the country is on a continuous path to developing its nuclear arms. Nuclear Threat Initiative, a U.S.-based think tank, ranked North Korea's nuclear materials security index at 30 points out of 100, the lowest among 25 countries that hold weapons-usable nuclear materials. The index measures the quantity and sites of nuclear materials, global norms, and domestic commitments of countries with more than 1 kilogram of highly enriched uranium and plutonium. Among the factors evaluated, North Korea ranked the lowest in the categories of voluntary commitments, safeguards adherence, and compliance. The NTI said that the North's lack of information regarding nuclear activity was the main reason behind the country's low scores. The organization also added it could improve its scores if the country signs and ratifies international agreements and shows initiative in international nuclear security. Overall, nuclear material security improved worldwide. 7 states, including Hungary, Mexico, and Ukraine, began completely removing most or all of its weapons-usable nuclear materials in 2012. The report comes ahead of the Nuclear Security Summit to be held in March at The Hague. Australia topped the list, followed by Canada and Switzerland, while India and Iran ranked 23rd and 24th, respectively. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
China has taken its diplomatic row with Japan to the United Nations, questioning Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's distorted view of history after he visited a shrine commemorating several convicted war criminals. China's UN envoy Liu Zheji says Abe was siding with convicted war criminals over the UN by visiting the Yasukuni Shrine, which he said whitewashes and glorifies Japan's wartime aggression. Following talks with the visiting Japanese foreign and defense ministers in Paris, French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said that Abe's visit, although a delicate issue, was to respect the Japanese that died during the war. Abe's younger brother Nobuo Kishi will head to the U.S. next Monday to seek Washington's understanding of Abe's visit. President Park Geun-hye's first overseas trip of the new year will take her to India and Switzerland. She will embark on a 9-day tour of the two nations next Wednesday. Our presidential correspondent Oh Jin-ju has the details.
The creative economy will be the key theme of President Park's trip to India and Switzerland. The concept encourages collaboration between creative ideas and the science and technology sector to produce new growth engines for the economy. In India, President Park is scheduled to hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, and the two are expected to discuss cooperation in the sectors of security, trade and investment, and most importantly, science and information communications technology, the key parts of a creative economy. Further cooperation in this field with India, a huge market with a population of 1.2 billion, is expected to give a boost to President Park's vision for a creative economy, which is one of the major goals of her 3-year economic reform plan unveiled earlier this week. In the Swiss capital of Bern, President Park will hold a bilateral summit with President of the Swiss Confederation, Didier Burkhalter, and the two are expected to seek ways to expand cooperation in various fields, especially science and technology and vocational training, sectors that are strengths for the European country. President Park's trip marks the first state visit by a Korean president to Switzerland. During her stay in that country, she will also attend the World Economic Forum in Davos and give a keynote speech on the creative economy and entrepreneurship. The presidential office of Chung Won-tae says President Park plans to introduce her economic reform plan, which centers around the creative economy, and promote Korea's economic and investment environment to bring more foreign businesses to the country. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
The leaders of the ruling and main opposition parties are set to hold separate press conferences early next week where they'll announce their policy goals for 2014. Our political correspondent Kim Hyun-ji reports on what we can expect.
The ruling Saenuri Party will hold its New Year's news conference at its headquarters in Yeouido next Tuesday, about 1 week after President Park Geun-hye held her own. Saenuri Party chief Hwang Woo-yeol is expected to outline how his party intends to help President Park realize her 3-year economic innovation plan. The president wants to put the country on the path to a per capita income of $40,000 and a 70% employment rate before her term ends. With that in mind, the ruling party chief is likely to talk about how the National Assembly should support the slowly recovering economy and boost domestic demand. As the legislation of such bills requires bipartisan efforts, Hwang is likely to seek help from the main opposition party. Another issue that may come up during the press conference is reunification with North Korea, which President Park described as being a jackpot in her New Year's address. On the other side of the political aisle lies the main opposition Democratic Party, whose chairman Kim Han-gil will hold his New Year's press conference on Monday. Political watchers expect Kim to urge President Park and the government to communicate more effectively in 2014, both with the general public and the opposition. He's also expected to once again call on the president to launch an independent investigation into allegations that a number of state institutions, including the spy agency and the military, try to influence the outcome of the 2012 presidential election in favor of now President Park Geun-hye. Reviving the economy is also a goal of the Democratic Party, but the party wants to do it by promoting fair business practices. The policy divide between the rival parties and the illegal electioneering scandal in the run-up to the 2012 presidential election kept the National Assembly in a deadlock for much of last year. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiations.
President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a.
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday.
Korea's central bank has left its key interest rate unchanged at 2.5% for the 8th straight month in January on improving economic conditions at home and abroad. The bank also stuck with its forecast that the Korean economy will grow 3.8% this year. Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
Some economists have been betting on a rate cut this month, but that did not happen. Following its monthly monetary policy meeting on Thursday, the central bank kept its key interest rate steady at 2.5% for the 8th straight month. The bank said the local and global economies are showing clearer signs of recovery. It added that the Korean economy is very close to reaching its potential growth rate of nearly 4%, offering a growth outlook of 3.8% for this year and 4% for next year.
If the government works on improving its structural productivity by easing regulations, for example, the local economy will be able to achieve a growth rate of nearly 4%.
Despite the recovery momentum, the bank revised down the nation's inflation rate estimate for this year to 2.3%, down 0.2 percentage points from its October forecast.
The nation's low inflation rate stems from prices for international oil, commodities, and domestic agricultural goods that are stabilizing.
The central bank board's unanimous decision to hold the key rate came amid concerns of a rapid strengthening of the Korean won against the Japanese currency and lingering uncertainty stemming from the U.S. Federal Reserve's decision last month to scale back its bond buying program. The weak yen, which lost a fifth of its value against the won last year, is a major concern among policymakers as it erodes the price competitiveness of Korean exporters against their Japanese rivals.
The BOK governor, however, downplayed the possibility that the bank might adopt policy measures to tackle the weakening Japanese yen, saying that only certain industries like automobiles, steel, and machinery are taking a hit from the yen's fall. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
The Korean government is aiming to lure more foreign direct investment to boost the economy. From tax breaks to visa extensions, Kim Min-ji outlines how the government is sweetening the deal.
The Korean government on Thursday unveiled a set of measures to draw more foreign direct investment to the nation in a bid to spur economic growth by boosting production and creating jobs. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy's blueprint includes a relaxation of regulations on foreign investment and incentives to encourage global companies to set up their headquarters in Korea. First, the government plans to ease and clarify foreign investment regulations. Many economists have pointed out that one of the biggest obstacles to foreign investment in Korea is the maze of confusing regulations on overseas investors. The government also plans to encourage global enterprises to establish regional headquarters and research and development centers in Korea.
For all foreign employees at the headquarters, the government will fix the income tax rate at 17% and extend their visa status to a maximum of 5 years. The blueprint also includes a series of incentives for foreign investors, including quality of life improvements. Finally, the government also plans to map out strategies to attract more foreign investment in the future. Although Korea has seen the amount of foreign direct investment jump in recent years, the country is still far behind other global players. In 2012, foreign direct investment in Korea came to $147 billion, far below the US, which had $3.9 trillion, and Britain at $1.3 trillion. In addition, Korea's foreign direct investment in terms of GDP is the lowest in the OECD. FDI accounted for just 12.7% of GDP in 2012. That puts Korea second to last among the 34 OECD countries and far below top-ranking countries such as Luxembourg, Ireland, and Britain. But with the newly announced plan, Korea is now aiming to become one of the world's top 10 investment destinations in the coming years. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
With PC sales on a seemingly terminal decline and the smartphone market saturated, what's a computer chip giant to do? Well, looks like as though wearable tech will be the industry's next target. Our Yudian shows us the latest innovations.
It's no longer cutting-edge smartphones, but wearable technology that's generating all the buzz at this year's Consumer Electronics Show. Intel, the world's largest chip maker, which has been slow to adapt its processor for smartphones and tablets, took the leap into wearable computing. It unveiled a chip designed for wearables that is called the Edison. The chip is essentially a tiny computer and includes a dual-core CPU, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and even has its own app store. By integrating the chip, clothing and gadget makers will be able to expand their wearable product lines. In addition to the chip, Intel also unveiled its own wearable gadgets. One is a set of smart earbuds that can play music and take the wearer's heartbeat. The other is a onesie that's actually a baby monitor capable of detecting a baby's movement, body temperature, and breathing. Now, another chip giant, Qualcomm, is making a similar move to shift gears away from its forte of creating platforms for smartphones. Its new Qualcomm Internet processor is geared toward the so-called Internet of Things, a network of everyday objects that are connected to the Internet. The platform will essentially be used to share data on home security, energy, and family health from various devices at home. By 2020, the number of Internet-connected devices is expected to expand to 26 billion and wearable devices to over 370 million units, according to research from Gartner. So it's no surprise these chip giants are venturing into what are now considered niche markets that appear to have vast potential for future applications. Yurian, Arirang News.
Record a video.
Germany has vowed to give a helping hand in destroying Syrian chemical weapons stockpile. The German foreign minister says Berlin has decided to contribute as it had the capacity and technology to undertake this task. Syria is believed to have 1,300 tons of chemical agents, including sarin and the nerve agent VX. The German minister added the removal of the weapons could be a decisive step toward ending the conflict in Syria. Waste from the destroyed weapons will be burned at a government facility in the town of Münster in northern Germany. Germany has until now refused to accept chemical weapons onto its soil. The country has a strong pacifist and anti-nuclear movement, which is opposed to any involvement in foreign missions, especially in the Middle East.
And TGI Friday, everyone, as we kick things off in the LPGA. Now, things are going to get even more exciting as a new point system in the LPGA will be implemented for the 2014 season. And it also means another title Park In-bi can get her hands on. And in the latest point system, each golfer will be awarded 500 points for a first-place finish, 300 for second, and 190 points for a third-place finish, and so on. But in the case of an LPGA major, golfers will be given 25% more, as the winner will receive 625 points. And at the end of the season, the golfer with the most points will earn $1 million in prize money. And moving on to some winter sports news, the South Korean bobsleigh team continues to surprise everyone as they won not just one, but 2 medals in the latest America Cup. Now, during the 7th round of the America Cup in Lake Placid, U.S., Won Yun-jung and Seo Young-woo finished first in the 2-man bobsleigh event to win the gold medal. But that's not all. The duo of Kim Dong-hyun and Chung Jung-min finished second as the South Korean bobsleigh team take home a gold and a silver in the latest event. And staying on winter sports, we saw the success of the bobsleigh team, skeleton, and now luge, as Korea earned tickets to all 4 luge events in Sochi. With the Winter Olympics less than a month away, the International Luge Federation notified the Korean Luge Federation that they have earned their ticket to the Sochi Winter Games. Now, this includes the men's and women's single, 2-person luge, and the team relay event, as the sport draws more and more interest from the fans. And now moving on to some Thursday night's KBL action. Jeonju KCC Aegis topped Wonju-dongbu Promi in the final score of 74-64 as we shift over to Seoul SK Knights taking on Incheon Itilan Elephants with Aaron Haynes returning to the lineup. Of course, going into the game here, first quarter of the game, Incheon off to a great start as they take a 27-17 lead thanks to Ricardo Pau's 11 points in the quarter before going into halftime with a nice 45-35 lead. Now, second half of the game, SK trying to rally, but with Aaron Haynes limited to just 18 minutes in the game, Incheon holds on to take this game 75-66, your final score. And now finishing things off with some Thursday night's V-League action as the Korean Expressway pulled off an upset win over the IBK Altos with the final set score of 3-0 in the Women's League. Now, meanwhile, Hyundai Capital Skywalkers took on the LIG Graders over on the men's side, so let's take a look at the highlights. Now, first set, LIG off to a monster start as Hyundai Capital struggles to score, and the first set goes to LIG 25-21. But unfortunately for LIG, no repeat performance from them as the Skywalkers improved their attack in the next 3 sets and sweeping the rest of the match 25-23, 25-15, and 30-28 as Liberman Algamez puts up 33 points with Moon Sung-min adding 14 points. Hyundai Capital rally back to take this match 3-1. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great weekend, everyone, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Happy Friday! Well, the deep freeze gripping much of the country will continue today. In fact, this morning is colder than yesterday as the daily low in Seoul will be at -10 and even Busan is starting out at -6 this morning. So the cold wave advisory is still in place in most parts of the country. So be sure to bundle up tight before heading out. But thankfully, afternoon highs should be slightly warmer than yesterday under mostly partly sunny skies. Now it looks like deep freeze weather will ease up on the weekend, soaring back to seasonal averages, but this brief warm-up will only last till Sunday. So please keep that in mind and let's take a closer look at today's numbers. A morning low in Seoul is starting out at -10 and the afternoon highs will only peak to -1, and Daegu and Gwangju is also waking up to a morning low of -8 and -7, and the daily low in Busan will be at -6. Now for other regions, it looks like Jeju will top out at 5 in the afternoon. Daejeon will also get up to freezing morning low of -10 and daily high in Daejeon and Dokdo will get up to freezing mark, while the top temperature in Kumgangsan Mountain will be at -9. Now that's all for now. Don't forget to bundle up tight before heading out and hope you have a wonderful Friday.
And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Thank you for being with us.